Hi everyone, welcome. Everyone in here should be a MarkLogic partner or an aspiring partner. Is that right? Yeah, because we're not going to be talking about Deutsche Bank or the BBC or any of those things. Right, that's us. My name's Adrian Cass, still. No change there since this morning. And I'm going to be joined by two colleagues, David Northmore, who's the VP of Europe, who's timing me. I think is going to throw me off, and Julie Furt, who's our Global Head of Services. So I'm going to start things off with just 4 key points here. I'm going to talk a little bit about the market evolution. I'm going to talk about customer awareness, integrator attention, and the evolution of MarkLogic. Now, some of this has been covered by Gary this morning. But the gist of this is that there's never been a better time to partner with MarkLogic, okay? So the starting point is the market evolution. And I figured out I would draw some pictures, and to save a bit of time, I've pre-drawn, so hopefully you can see these. None of this is my own work, okay? None of this is rocket science either. And anyone who's read works like Crossing the Chasm by Geoffrey Moore, which is how old now? 20 years, probably 15, will be aware of this. So a new technology, a new piece of technology comes out, and I'm not talking about a product, I'm talking about a genre or a technology stream. And what happens is human behavior hits it. There's early adopters, those people who will try anything twice, the early majority, late majority, and laggards. And a new technology starts off here and moves through this cycle, if it's successful. Let's be clear, if it's successful. Now, in actual fact, there are many different lenses for this, because if that's a total market size, actually the market is then subdivided by industries. So if we're selling to business, there's many different industries. Investment banks tend to be early adopters. They are moving such huge transactions of money that making something slightly quicker or slightly more efficient can make them a lot of money. So, you know, many years ago I was at Juniper Networks selling switches, and a lower latency switch, you could have a field day for the number of weeks until your competitor leapfrogged you. Because on the other hand, you know, there are certain markets that don't move until everybody else is doing it. And we kind of know this, and there's you know, the more important technology is to their industry, the quicker they move. You know, some people talk about the top investment banks, Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley. They'll say, really, these are tech companies disguised as banks, okay? So telco, entertainment, you know, life sciences, pharmaceutical, all tend to be down here. Now, if you look at what happens in this world, kind of cumulatively, a new technology, and for us, let's call it, you know, it might be NoSQL or new database or non-relational databases. There's a long gestation period. MarkLogic is 15 years old, a long period here, before you might get liftoff. Now, to go back here, I would say that 29 out of 30 or 49 out of 50 technology waves disappear. They get subsumed or overlapped or something. So to get on one of these, to back a horse that is even going to finish the race, is quite an achievement. And so when we look at this over time and market size, the NoSQL or new non-relational database market is now heading up this curve, okay? There is no doubt it's heading up this curve. The last 2 years alone, the MarkLogic business in Europe has grown at over 70%, okay? There's 110 people now in David's business across Europe. When I joined 4 years ago, there was 15 people and a small dog. The dog's no longer with us, we're sad to say. So what does this mean to you? It means, you know, what typically happens here is different types of companies get involved at different stages. We tend to see boutiques, specialists getting involved here. They tend to be in one geographic market and or one industry sector. And then we move into larger companies before it goes mainstream. And that's where guys like IBM Global Services get involved. They reach everywhere. They will do business with small and medium enterprises as well as the large, until things slow down and kind of plateau. And then, you know, you're looking for a low-cost, maybe offshore option. Now, of course, this isn't one curve. It's many different curves, and it's moving all the time. But the point of putting this up here right now is, we're heading up there. The NoSQL business, the new new database business is heading very rapidly up that curve. So this is point number one, is you're backing a horse that has got the legs to finish the race right now in terms of this technology, okay? The second thing is, one of the ways of moving through this, I had a colleague many years ago who was hired in Netherlands to set up an alliance business, and every partner he knocked on the door, they said, "We've never heard of you, go away." And so he went back to his boss and said, "I've got to be a salesperson for a while." And he went off and he signed up 2-3 big banks, went back to the partners, and they said, "Now we're listening." And so when you look at the names on stage today, you'll see that the market is already beginning to turn. There's this idea of turning the herd. It only takes turning 2 or 3 of the influential cattle to steer the herd. And when you look at, Deutsche Bank and JP Morgan and Morgan Stanley and Cisco and Chevron and on it goes, and you'll see many of them today, as well as if you check the football scores later on, you're probably going to go to the BBC Sport website. This is also MarkLogic, on and on. These customers are already embracing not just the general technology, but specifically MarkLogic. And so the references and use cases are out there and leverageable and accessible through our website. The third point is integrator attention. This is our third MarkLogic world around the world: San Francisco, Tokyo, and London. And somewhere between 30 and 45% of attendees have been partners. That is huge. And when we look at the trend going back a few years, 2-3 years ago, we had the same feedback that my old Dutch colleague used to have, which is, "We don't need to talk to you. We don't know who you are or what you're talking about." And suddenly we're selling out for free, that is, but selling out our auditoriums with partners. So we've got the attention. And the last part of this is a really boring bit, because we just keep doing what we're doing. There's no chart here. MarkLogic just keeps creating great technology that works, that is entirely focused on the enterprise. And that's not going to change. We'll talk about version 9 a little later. Great new features. We're growing around the world. We've opened up Asia Pacific with new offices. In the last year, we've opened up France. We're probably 22 people in France now. Expanding in Germany. Australia's new, Singapore's new, Japan is expanding our global reach to deal with global customers. When we look at this marketplace, and we find ourselves squeezed between 2 big competitive groups, and the first is the open source world. And the way we differentiate when we're selling is all about the importance of the data. If your data is important, and it really hurts you if you lose some, then you should be talking to us. And if it doesn't really matter, then, well, hey, we'll sit this one out, okay? On the other side, we have Oracle, and let's not dismiss Oracle. They have great technology. What's happened is it's being used for many places it wasn't designed for. However, there is a wall of resistance to change, because you don't get fired for buying Oracle. You don't get fired for continuing to deploy more and more Oracle, however arduous it is, however much hard work. And that's the battleground we play in. And so as MarkLogic grow and evolve and build the technology and build a team to support our customers, support our partners, we get more and more focused on how to compete with these 2 sectors, how to burst the bubble of the FUD, the fear, uncertainty, and doubt around Oracle, and also how to separate ourselves from the open source guys. So this session here is going to be about how do we help? How do you work with us? How do you work with our services organization? From the outside, you might think they're competitors. They're not. And with that, I'm going to hand over to David to start the session off. Great, there you go. You need one more hand, maybe. Thank you.
I've got enough hands. I'm okay. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to talk about the ideal partner profile. I'll say a little bit about that, always recognizing that nothing in life is ideal typically. So I'll give you some guidelines, but I'll try and help you understand how to differentiate. We'll talk through how we'll support you in a cycle. and hopefully I'll give you an indication as to how you can make money by working with MarkLogic. And then I'm going to hand over to Julie to talk about how we can enable you and fix training and so forth. So what's an ideal partner? I was talking to Paul at Tazoo earlier about some of the ways that partners can differentiate, and the most successful partners that we have somehow figured out how to make the sum of what you've got and MarkLogic greater than the whole. How do you differentiate from the competition by working with MarkLogic to stand out from the crowd? And the guys that's quite difficult, but the guys that have managed to figure that out are usually the ones that generate better revenues, better pull-through business, and so on. And that's the piece that I'd encourage you to think about harder at the outset. That goes beyond just kind of sitting down with getting your sales guys talking to our sales guys about Deutsche Bank or a particular customer. It's actually, what is it in your proposition that you can extend or build upon with our product and differentiate yourselves from the crowd? Now, that might be stating the obvious, but think about that, because it's likely to help you to become more successful. And it's your alliance managers that predominantly you can work with to try and figure that out, with support from some of the regional sales directors and people like me and Adrian. So we tend to talk at MarkLogic about positive customer outcomes, PCOs we call them, and whoever we're working with, whether it's led by a partner, whether it's led by us, whatever, our key objective is always to come out with the best possible positive customer outcome. We want customers to have a great experience, and we want you to as well. So what does a typical ideal partner look like? You've probably got access to a number of customers. Might be lots of customers, might not be such a big number of customers. They might be in a specific vertical, or they might be in a specific region, but there's something about your relationship with those customers that differentiates you from the crowd. That's of massive value to us. And usually you'll have things like contracts in place with your customer set. And again, that's really attractive from our point of view. It helps make you much more sticky when you're trying to deploy and continue to deploy multiple applications with us. Again, the most successful partners that work with us don't just have a sales arm that fulfills software orders, and they don't typically have just a services organization that deploys. Usually, the most successful MarkLogic sales partners have a pre-sales function and a sales function, as well as a delivery function. And we're geared up to engage with you at each stage of an opportunity life cycle. The other thing that I'd stress, you should be open and welcoming of the certification programs that we're going to talk about. Increasingly, we're asked by customers to recommend partners that have certified MarkLogic staff. So we're trying to extend that program and help partners to achieve that certification. That's going to become more and more important, I believe, and I'd encourage you to embrace that. How do we invest in your success? Well, I've already talked about the fact that our field engagement model is to engage with you at each and every stage of the cycle. So our pre-sales and sales people are expecting to work with you once you've identified a solid opportunity that we can help you qualify. The sales guy, rather than being threatening in an account, is there to support a sales cycle for you, and you should seek out those individuals and seek to collaborate with those guys, because they're your route into the right resources within MarkLogic. So they can hook you up with the right CTO, for example. I was with Matt Turner and a partner yesterday talking about some of the opportunities that we're uncovering together in the media space. And that CTO within, or sometimes they're called solution leads, solution directors, they have a great understanding of bridging the technical divide between our product and a business or end user. How does a business user want to hear about the benefits that our technology can bring? And again, access to those guys is normally quite difficult. Your route to those is usually through an account exec. We've got about 20 account execs in Europe. And again, I'd urge you to make full use of those guys. They're encouraged to work with partners. They haven't got enough feet on the street themselves. There are only 20 in Europe. We're growing like crazy. And again, I'd encourage you to talk to them to help you access our resources and to benefit from those. I won't talk through the specific fees. There are lots of great ways to make money working with us. Referral fees or resell fees, but really your revenues as you move through successful sales cycles with MarkLogic relate to your services and the fees that you derive from adding your own IP to our stack. This is a corporate slide, and I've left this one on to talk specifically about the fact in the States, if you go to if you did go to MarkLogic World in San Francisco, we talk in the US about a slightly different model to the one that we've got here. In the States, we've got a dedicated team of pre-sales technicians, or SEs as we call them, system engineers. We don't operate that way here. So Paul Pruvenier's team is responsible for supporting the channel, and that's an important difference. The reason we do that is because we find it really difficult to pull one team together that can speak all the various languages that we have to speak as we move around Europe. So that facility is integrated into the same pre-sales group that work with the direct sales force, which again is a good thing. These guys are dynamite. They can help you in all of these ways. These slides will be available, so I won't read those points out. In the States, they call this, if you did go to MarkLogic World in the States, they call this the money section. We prefer to call it the market opportunity for consulting services section. And it's there to help you understand how you can make money by working with us. And in essence, if you haven't spent a lot of time working with MarkLogic in Europe, our business is going like a train. The year before last, we doubled our revenues in Europe. Last year, year on year, we increased our revenues by 72%, our total revenues. So again, if you figure it out, we almost doubled the number of sales territories in the region. And to keep growing like that, you need as many friends, as many good friends as you can get. So this is a great time to be working with MarkLogic. In Q1 of this year, our total bookings, not quite the same as revenue, but our total bookings represent 40% of our total revenues for the whole of last year. So if you do the sums, we're on the right trajectory. Now is a really good time to get on the map with us, to start working with us, and to start investing and developing, continuing to invest in the skills that are required to help us go to market, and you. Here's a slide. I'm not so familiar with the build, but this is supposed to show the typical model in working with us, how you can derive revenues and how on one account you can work with us to grow the revenues. We adopt what we'll refer, you'll hear us talk about a land and expand strategy. Our product has a high ROI from the outset, and that fosters expansion. So we'll sell in for one specific requirement perhaps, or one application, and that will lead to incremental purchases, if you like, and service opportunities around the rollout of that successful application. But your services will typically ramp up at the beginning as you look at a development cycle. And then there's a long tail of services as you continue to enhance an application or support it or whatever your own model is. Our consulting typically is quite high at the beginning. And again, you shouldn't feel threatened by that. You should expect on the first few projects for us to be very actively engaged and to take a lead role. But the idea is that model shifts such that as you get up to speed and you learn some of the best practices and you become more proficient in architecting a MarkLogic solution, you start to pick that up. That's through the development phase. We'll continue to be involved in things like code reviews or architecture reviews, checks, and so forth. But all the time, our sales team is working with yours to identify new opportunities. Now, that might be to add new data sources to the first application. It might be to find new applications to deploy the same bench that you've developed the first time round so that you can employ that gainfully somewhere else within that same customer. But it's all about trying to add value. I'll quickly walk through Deutsche Bank, which is a great example of the model that I've just talked about. Again, you've got the number of people on one side, you've got time on the other. We started working there with a partner. We helped ramp that partner. That first application that we sold, you'll hear referred to as DB Trade Store. Again, that's the land and expand strategy. We sold them what they needed initially. As they've been more successful, they've added data sources, they've added more systems, they've needed more software, they've scaled out that architecture, they've added nodes, and that's seen us realize more license opportunities. That's great. But it's also seen additional service opportunities. So we've successfully sold 3 applications now. First one was Trade Store. We've got 2 more applications that are now scaling out within Deutsche Bank. One's probably bigger than Trade Store. The other's a legal services application. But again, that's creating the demand for more services, and our partners in that account are benefiting from that. We're still involved. We're actively involved here and in the States, and hopefully increasingly in Frankfurt, and we're providing advice on architecture issues, on code reviews and so forth, and we're also helping them make sure that as they expand their footprint with MarkLogic, as you heard Gary talking about earlier, they're doing it in a good way that is efficient from their point of view. But all this creates lots of opportunity. I estimate we're probably talking to them now about another 7 applications. And this is a great example, but it's by no means the only one. This is the typical model of how a customer starts a journey with us and how we and a partner take that customer through realizing the benefit and the value of working with MarkLogic. I said it was a corporate slide. I didn't do that graphic, but there you go. I didn't do this either. Effectively, what we're trying to do is help you crawl initially, learn to crawl with the first application, and then we'll walk with you, and after that, you're off and running. To hark back to what Adrian said about the life cycle, we're way beyond the early adopters at Deutsche Bank, and it's all about trying to find other customers where you have differentiators, where you can succeed, and we'll partner together on those. On that note, I'm going to hand over to Julie.
Sounds good. I am all mic'd up, apparently. I do need the clicker, though. Thank you. Otherwise, it'll be really hard for me to go.
Yeah, right.
Can everyone hear me? My voice doesn't always project, so we make sure the mic works. Okay, someone in the back's nodding their head, so we get 1 person awake. Great. So for folks who haven't got a chance to meet me in the past, I run our consulting and training function. And we've gone ahead and spent a lot of time in the last year about thinking about how we globally expand that footprint and all of the things that we can help you all do as partners to the organization. And that's from both perspectives, both MarkLogic University as well as the consulting organization. So right out of the gate, we have a couple of trainings that we've been working on with our partner enablement organization that are focused on the pre-sales functions and sales functions within your organization. Right now, there's a 2-hour overview that can be given for sales or business development. You'll work with your partner manager to set these up. And then coming later this summer, we're going to have a half-day session designed for your pre-sales engineers. So these are folks who are not necessarily implementers, but are out helping build demos, supporting the sales calls that you're going on, and those types of things. And then for those of you who have dedicated account executives, we have a less technical training. If they are less technical, or if they're more technical, they're welcome to go through the standard training that will allow them to understand the value proposition of the market, as well as opportunity identification, and do some initial objection handling. So that's all new this year. Once we get into implementation, you fall into the more traditional realm of the MarkLogic University and our consulting services. And we've really designed the program to be able to take you from the conception of being able to get started all the way through the certification process. And we are emphasizing the certification process with both you, our partners, as well as out in the field working with our customers, because it's very important to us at MarkLogic that we have positive customer outcomes. And one of the best ways that we can facilitate all of you to rise up and to be the most effective partners that we have out there opposed to other competitors that you may have in the fields is to give you tools that allow you to differentiate yourselves objectively. And doing that, we also can advise our customers how to go out and find you all in the marketplace, how to identify that you've differentiated yourself, and to give them an understanding of what kind of branding we get in our certification and what the bar is. So as you have individuals in your organization getting started technically, we've developed a series of introductory on-demand courses. These tend to be shorter, somewhere between 5 and 25 minutes. There's a few just high-level introduction ones, so it's good if you want to do a broad introduction to a larger pool of folks to see if they have interest in diving deeper. So we've got an introduction to MarkLogic in multiple different languages. Right now it's in French and English. We will have other languages coming soon for those of you who are not native English speakers. We have a sample stack demonstration that's a good introduction to developing on the platform. And then we also have an introduction to Node.js for folks who have Node.js developers but don't necessarily know MarkLogic. It walks you through an application implementation. And so that's there as well. And so these are all something you can go out. It's free to access and just go ahead and let folks take a look and see if they're interested. You can see that we've also cleverly shown these on mobile applications. That's because we have the MarkLogic University mobile app that we came out with in December. And I would encourage folks to go ahead and download that if you're going to be on a train that has spotty cell phone access, or if you're getting on a plane. Those are able to download ahead of time, and then you can access them whenever you want. And so once you've got your technical folks self-identified or they've been assigned to learn MarkLogic, the way to dig in deeper is to go ahead and go through our full training courses. So at this point, all of our training courses are available instructor-led. Our public courses are free, and they're primarily available live online in our virtual classroom. So this allows us to be the most efficient because it is free. We are working on getting our courses available in a self-paced learning environment. Right now, we only have our introduction course, which is MarkLogic Fundamentals, available in that mode. That allows you to go out and have somebody start and stop the course at any time. They can email an instructor, but there's nobody live there. But that, in the US, it's very common for us to have folks take training maybe 2 hours an evening and get across something in a week. That allows folks to go out and do that. Or if you want them to take a couple of half days because of some kind of project assignment, or if they just get really excited and want to do it on the weekend, but they want to chop it up, it allows them to do it on their own time frame. We've also made this training available through Udemy. Udemy is a training portal that has 10 million technical subscribers to it. And so what we're trying to allow ourselves to do is to develop the broader development community. So it's easier for you as our partners to go out and find people who are already trained on MarkLogic and to be able to hire them out of the gate rather than to just join them. So we will continue to work on identifying additional channels for developing talent out in the field. So in the last year, we've gone from offering a lot of things on the US time zone and a little bit in Europe to having full-scale coverage globally. We have 8 instructors, and we have them based in the US, in Europe, in India, and then in Asia Pacific, we have an instructor in the Philippines who can cover the time zones. We also do training in Japan, and we do training in English, French, and Japanese live. So that's all available and all new this year. The training is organized by track, and so if you have folks who are going to be administrators versus developers, they have different training courses that they would go through. The administrator track, administering MarkLogic, is relatively straightforward, much more straightforward than compared to a lot of other technologies, so the training's very lightweight. It's just a total of 4 days, including the introductory course that everyone goes through. Development, it's a very rich platform, so there's a lot of opportunities here, so there's a lot of different courses. One of the things that we've tried to work on in the last year is part of the overall theme of the product is allowing developers to develop in the language that they're already comfortable in. So if you've been a partner for a number of years, you will know that xQuery is the language that the product was built to use going back a number of versions ago. We've now added support for Java and Node.js as well, and we've updated the curriculum to reflect this. One thing I'll draw your attention to is that the xQuery class is a day longer than Java and Node.js. That's because we assume that people don't know xQuery walking in the door, so day one is spent teaching them the language. Whereas for Java and Node.js, we assume they have that background and understanding, and we just dive right into the MarkLogic materials. If someone wants to learn MarkLogic on the multiple different languages, they can do a cross-training on the other languages, which are just simple one-day courses, and then they can dive into MarkLogic semantics, and then beyond that, if they're going towards a certification track, they will be able to dive into Developer 2. From there, we've just rolled out learning assessments, and this was done in reaction to feedback we had from partners like yourselves. And so what we were seeing was that if a partner organization goes out and trains 40 people, you may have 32 people who are highly capable to learn those materials, but there may be 8 people who either don't want to learn it, don't have the prerequisite skills to learn it, or maybe they were just sick that day and they just didn't get it. And it was too hard for you all as organizations to assess those folks, because if you're getting started with a new technology, it's very difficult for you to assess how well somebody else is doing, because you may not actually have the in-house expertise to go through and do that. And so what we've done, and similarly, the individuals themselves may not recognize that they didn't get something. They may not understand that they understand 80% of the material, but they missed 20% of it. And so what we've gone ahead and done is we've put out on the web, anybody can take it, doesn't require actually going through the classes. It can be used to self-test out of classes, these tests. And they're equivalent to, if you go back to your school days, if you read a chapter and you get to the end, there might be 2 or 3 questions. And the questions just let you understand whether or not you comprehended what you were reading. And that's the intention. And when you go ahead and take these, you get back a score. It tells you the sections that you got scored well on, those that you scored poorly on, and then it allows you to kind of understand what you might need to go back and review. So those are out there, and it's an intermediate step to check your progress before you go out and try to get certified. And I would recommend that folks start doing that after each class that they take. Next in your MarkLogic journey in ramping your technical team would be go out and gain some experience. As David noted, we are really focused on making sure that the customers have a very good experience out of the gate. This is mutually beneficial to both our organization as well as your organization. And so we recommend that you partner with us in the consulting side. And that allows us to go in, help the customer get a quick win, realize the value of MarkLogic, and also think fondly of the entire joint delivery team that they have there. And when we work with you, we work with the customer, we'll put forward a plan that allows them to understand what the path is on ramping everybody in their organization and the overall delivery team going forward. And so a typical engagement will have members of my team providing architecture and development leadership on MarkLogic, while members of the partner team are in learn in shadow mode. That's not to say that that's the entire engagement. I would expect that your organizations would be picking up things like project management, requirements, testing, administration, and also some of the other roles that may pop up. Providing subject matter expertise is another great area. When we are experts on MarkLogic, but when we walk into different industries, we're not going to be providing those subject matter experts. We rely on you all to provide that. I don't staff a team of testers out there. I rely on all my partners to do that. So we are there to provide targeted expertise on MarkLogic, and then over time to have folks going from learning and shadowing to contributing, leading, and then owning, and we back out into the background and providing reviews and health checks over time. And working with you all to make sure we have a plan out of the gate on how we're going to do that. And then as your folks gain more experience, continuing to be able to use the resources from MarkLogic University. So they'll get mentorship from the folks that they're working with on the ground in the consulting organization, but they may just want to go out and say, how do I deploy on Amazon? How do I go ahead and configure a particular piece of code. And we have a series of on-demand tutorials that cover a lot of different topics. We continue to add to that library over time, and they're all topic focused. These tend to be 5 to 7 minutes, and they are just walkthroughs of specific actions. And then finally, once somebody's gone through, and typically it's about 3 to 6 months worth of experience for somebody who's highly capable, but gone through and done 1 to 2 projects, we recommend they go out and try to get certified. Certification's 2 steps. They have to pass a timed written exam, and then they have to pass a hands-on exam as well. And there is a gating factor, so if you haven't passed the written exam, you can't continue on to the hands-on exam. Coming out of that, you can be either a certified developer or a certified administrator. And then this is the one program that we do charge for out of MarkLogic University, but it's a nominal fee. It's $150 US for each test, which is $100, 100 pounds or so. So, but yeah, roughly, tied to the US dollar. Sorry.
Brexit, it's a lot more.
Yeah, there you go. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to David.
Call to action. Okay, thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you, Julie.
Yep.
Okay. Am I working? Yeah. Actually, my phone buzzed while Julie was speaking, and it was a reminder to say my postal vote is now active for the Brexit. I shouldn't call it the Brexit, the EU referendum. I have every confidence that that will come out the right way. I hope so. Already, Olivier says he won't let me back into Utrecht if it goes the wrong way. So we're hoping here for sure. A call to action. I'm going to hand over in a couple of minutes just to so that we can recognise some of the partners that have succeeded with us this year. But a quick call to action. The most important thing is that you pick up on what we've said to you today. Get your sales and pre-sales people trained. All this training is available to you. Engage, please, with your alliance directors in whichever sales region. There are 5 in Europe for us. And get your people trained up. Please embrace the certification. That will become increasingly important. It will also create a sense of responsibility in us to help you keep that bench motivated and actively, gainfully employed on MarkLogic projects. So you have our commitment that we'll do our best to make sure that you've got all of those resources gainfully employed. If you see something that looks like an opportunity, call us in, get engaged, and talk to us about that. But I'll go back to what I said at the beginning. Spend time up front trying to figure out how you're different with MarkLogic to your competition. What lets you differentiate within the marketplace? Because if you can figure that out, you'll be that much more successful. And equally, you're likely to generate bigger revenues with better margins. You should know each of these people. If you don't, find me, email me. You can get hold of me. But please try and engage with all these people. And as I just said, think big. Thank you. I'm going to hand over now to our CEO, or Adrian, and
Yep, we're a double act. So, Gary needs no introduction, but we're going to celebrate some of the great partner work we've done in the last year. So, Gary, you'll need the microphone. I have the clicker and the awards.
Adrian's going to be my demo dolly. This is great.
I've done worse.
He has. But before we actually get to the awards, just a quick comment on partnership. I want to thank all of you for being here. Partnerships, really critical, really important to us as we expand, in particular around our global expansion, but also the vertical market expansion we're doing. One of the things we find is, different partners take us into different parts of the world. They take us into different verticals. We're pretty fortunate. We have a technology that applies to all the different verticals and all the different geographies, and it's very much a horizontal platform. And so the go-to-market piece of it, the vertical side, the geographic piece, comes heavily from partners. And so we kind of recognize the importance of that, and we appreciate all of your interest here. But I do have the pleasure today of kind of awarding some of the partners here out of Europe that have already contributed a significant amount to our business here and get them a little recognition. And what I'd encourage all of you to do is, kind of be in that next category for next year so you can get recognized. It's a pretty interesting opportunity. And as I explained to a couple of people individually that have talked to me, there's a tremendous opportunity to transition out of just implementation into kind of the side of transforming the business, because most of our solutions are transformation solutions. They're actually transforming how the business operates, and that creates yet another opportunity. So the first partner I want to recognize is Tezoo. The longstanding relationship with MarkLogic, particularly in media and publishing sector, although they also worked with us side by side at a Dutch government agency, and they've played a significant role in the Aetna success that we've had out at Aetna Corporation, something you've heard about from a couple different people. By the way, one of the reasons, to Julie's point about getting certified, one of the reasons they're one of our very successful partners is they actually have one of the highest numbers of MarkLogic certified professionals. So on that, I'd like to invite Paul Barosin up, Executive VP of EMEA of Tezoo, to accept the award on behalf of Tezoo. Thank you very much.
No. I'm not
You gotta get the word so we can tweet and web. Thank you.
Okay. May I say something or later?
You can say something. I don't know if I can stop you.
Well, I'm very proud to receive this award, but I would like to have the credits and compliments are going to David Ennis and Hans Richter. They're also here. Tezoo, based in Washington, we really want to support the customer experience of our customers. We want to make them experience leaders, and personalization is the buzzword there. And to do that, we have to break down all these silos you talked about. And we really like the agility, the flexibility. Well, we could trust the data, fast implementation, and scalability of MarkLogic. And that's the reason we really think that we will go for global, win these awards in other regions too. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. I just hope somebody on my team recorded that so we can use it in the next round of MarkLogic Worlds. Partner testimonials are great. The next partner is New Book Solutions, a German publishing in Germany, publishing industry's leading software providers developing solutions for all sectors of the publishing industry. Obviously, publishing industry, as most of you know, has gone through a rapid change, probably one of the most disruptive and rapid changes to the whole world of digitization. I never can get that word out. The company's focused on developing and administering systems for publishers, booksellers, wholesalers, and library suppliers in both the German and international markets. They are presenting their story later today, so I'd encourage you to pick up their session and hear it. And for new books, we have, and my apologies on the names if I get this wrong, Moritz Hade, Managing Director of New Books, and Stefan Schwett, CTO of New Books. Apologies on the names. Close. I'll take close. Hold on. All right. Thank you very much. And the next partner award is actually Cognizant. So one of the world's leading providers of IT and business consulting. MarkLogic is really their go-to NoSQL database. This is a relationship that's been emerging globally. Here locally, 200 trained associates, although they've established goals internally to ultimately have 2,000 people trained on MarkLogic. I had a funny discussion with a partner yesterday. They were talking about the 6 people they were training, and it was a partnership that should have thousands trained as well, and here we have one that's actually go ahead into the thousands. They've also created a dedicated MarkLogic Center of Excellence. They were also involved, by the way, in the Aetna project in a very big way, and focus heavily on mission-critical systems. They've already invested heavily in MarkLogic and have extensive experience in the successful implementation of our database platform. So one of the kind of beautiful things with the partners when you have proven success stories, Julie talked a lot about positive customer outcomes, and that's something that we're delivering together with Cognizant. So I'd like to invite up Ian West, VP of Analytics and Information Management, And then this next one I'm going to totally butcher, but it's Najde Manuelin. And get this title. I want a title this long. Head of Big Data and Digital and Director of Partners in Marketing Analytics and Information Management. Cognizant. So... So we got the short title. We got it. Yeah. Thank you very much. And the last partner we're recognized today is one that we've actually done a lot of work with in the technology labs in particular, but it's actually broadened out into customer base, and that's MarkLogic. MarkLogic does semantic ontologies, and they have a product called Semaphore that is tightly integrated with MarkLogic, where they have a solution to help customers implement semantics capabilities that is in itself built on MarkLogic. So a really good effort there. I mentioned in the keynote that 3 years ago when we talked about semantics, we said it's going to be one of the biggest things in the market, and 2 or 3 years later, everybody would be talking about it. The really fun part about the semantics technology now is the active engagement with customers. So customers like KPMG, you'll hear from Michael Henry later today, use semantics. Another big customer that used semantics technology is Morgan Stanley in a major project that they just went live with. So really making a difference here, and without partners in the semantics technologies, we really wouldn't have a full offering. And so it's an offering that takes a lot of technology from us, and it takes a lot of technology from our partners. And MarkLogic has been one of those key suppliers, really helps people understand the meaning of their data. So I'd like to invite up Paul Gunstone, Sales Director of MarkLogic. You got your fingerprints all over that, Adrian. You'll have to polish it later. All right. So thank you again to all the award winners, and my thanks to all of you for taking time out of your busy schedules to be here with us for MarkLogic World, and I'll hand it back to Adrian. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you. Boxes for the award winners here. So now we're going to take a break for lunch. I believe lunch is up on 3. So, and then we restart at 2. Okay, and again, stream, so check in the program, see where you're going to be. Let's enjoy lunch, and don't forget to visit the partners.
Can I say one name of the partner about the certification program?
Yes, do you want, is it a question that, okay, no, let's do
Give
it.
David the mic.
Okay, just for those that are here, the company I work for at Tazu, everyone that we have that is client-facing has to be certified. I made that rule because I have to support every one of them. And we have some developers that have been using MarkLogic since MarkLogic 4. They're senior Java developers. He's today working on a certification because what we found is no matter how much people know about MarkLogic, it's so big that every single person, including myself, keep filling in the gaps that aren't there. And it keeps happening. When the next certification program comes out for the next version, we're going to do it again because there's always new things to learn. And for me, if they weren't certified, I wouldn't know what gaps they had and couldn't support them properly. So that's just why we do it.
That's great, thank you. That's a great endorsement. I completely echo that. Thank you. Right, thank you everyone. Let's enjoy lunch.
And that's why we love you.